Hi everyone, welcome to the final game from round 1 in my series on the 2013 British Chess Championships, and it seems fair that I do the bottom board games in round 1 since I did the top board game as my first video. This game was between Paul Girdlestone of 21.55 FIDE, which meant he missed Jones by like a point, and Wang of 18-17 FIDE, but that FIDE is a joke because she's a lot stronger than that. And she's the older as well, two very strong sisters. Who for the other one, Anna's a couple of years younger, and she's like almost as high as well. So yeah, a lot of potential there for WGM. And Paul Girdlestone's about 190 ECF, I think. So even on bottom board of the main event, you've got players a lot stronger than me, which shows how far I've got to go. Paul was white and Maria was black. Knight f3, 1 knight f3, and we get a Ke2 King's Indian defense, which I think is the best line against the King's Indian, because one of the main points of the King's Indian is just to throw pawns at the enemy king and hack and sack mate. But it's very hard to do that if there's a bishop in front of the king. Rook e3, Rook e8, b3, c6. I won't say much about the openings, I know very little about these positions. Queen c2, Queen c7, Bishop b2. See, white's got a very solid position, but maybe not very ambitious. Maybe black's equalised this position. Rook b8. Black's aiming for counterplay via b5 on the queen side, because, like I say in this line, white is very solid on the king side. So probably the best line is to play something like the panel and play Rook b8 and b5 ideas, playing the centre and queen side rather than the king side. Rook ac1 was chosen. b6. Rook fd1. Bishop e7, b4. So white wants a queenside breakthrough. Rook bc8. I'm not sure why the rook went to b8 and then to c8 personally. Queen b3, so I think white might be getting the better of it. Now a6. This reminds me, if you may see my rapid game against David Fry, where he actually went against me a6, b6, c6, d6. This reminds me exactly of that game. I personally think that these moves are a bit wasted and the tension in the centre should actually be resolved. Because you think black's rook's on the e file, so you might as well open up the e file if white takes this way. Well, maybe knight e4. If white take, I think white's best is to take with a piece. Maybe the rook's best, and then we can get some pressure on the d6 point. But even so, I think this is a better way for black to play. I think white can also consider relieving the tension in this way. And if you take with a pawn, then knight g5 is actually quite interesting, threatening c5. So black plays c5 to stop that, and then stick the knight on d5. And white has a very good position. So I think again black should take back with a piece to gain some activity and keep the diagonal open for the bishop. After knight takes, take with a rook, and then white can play knight e4, which is a very interesting move, and then black can play rook takes e4 and bishop takes f6. The rook has to move, of course, and then bishop g7 to get rid of black's very good bishop. Now king g7 and flick this check in perhaps. f6. And I think white's got a good position here where black's pawns are very weak. But he played a4 instead, so it's a very aesthetically pleasing position this, with the pawns on a6, c6, d6, ba6, tongue twister this, a6, b6, c6, d6. 6. So ed4 was played, so finally the tension in the centre gets relieved. ed4. Again, in previous comments, I think taking the knight or the rook is better. ed4, now d5. An interesting move, aiming to fight back in the centre. But maybe after, why should have played cd5? After cd5, the point of this I think was to get the e4 square. Again, this knight g5 is quite annoying. And save queen d6. Something like b5. White seems to have the initiative, but instead c5 was played, trying to keep it blocked. bc5, bc5, Rook goes back to b8, so black's wasted several tempos going rook b8, rook c8, rook b8. But it does put the rook on the same file as the queen, which is quite good. But there's no threat, so rook e1 was played to contest the e file. Bishop goes back to c8 with tempo. Queen goes back to c2. Knight f8, which is a very good move actually, to activate black's pieces. The knight's going to come into e6, which is a good square and puts pressure on white's centre, and the bishop is also released to come to f5, which will attack the queen and regain tempo. White takes the rook because the knight's forced back then, but it also opens up black's bishop on d4. Rook e1, bishop f5 with tempo, queen e2. Now black's starting to get the better position. Knight comes back out to f6. So I think white's messed up here somewhere. Bishop back to c1 because the bishop's a bit exposed on that square, only protected by the queen. Knight into e6. So black is actually sacked a pawn in this position. So should white take it? It was taken when queen takes a6. It's sort of safe to take. It's not losing, but it's maybe a bit risky. And this shows that black is a lot stronger than 1817, because a true 1817 would not sacrifice a pawn for the compensation, which is very hard to see. I think maybe taking its best, because I think white's got a pretty miserable position otherwise. Queen takes a6. But I think black, to get the compensation, had to play knight d7, which is not an easy move to see. The point is now the pawn d4 is hanging, and there is all sorts of tactics on the c5 pawn. So say bishop e3, then black actually can play knight d takes c5, after d takes c5, bishop c3, rook d1, and then just move the bishop back to f6. And although white's gained a pawn, an outside pass pawn, black's got two very nice bishops, pressure on the white's pawns, and overall better position. But knight e4 was played instead, which doesn't seem to give as much compensation. Knight takes, bishop takes, knight g5 is finally played. These guys come off. But now white regains a pawn. But the best move is to play bishop takes g2 first, to weaken around white's king. King takes g2, then take it. And white gets rook e7 in, fair enough. Black has to play queen c8. Otherwise she's gonna get attacked. And then the queen's will probably take a bath. So white plays bishop e3. And white's got slightly better chances for shooting the outside pass pawn, but a draw is probably a likely result. I have to say bishop e3, fe3, rook a8. And in fact, white is actually losing the outside pass pawn. He's got to play rook c7 and then take. And he's got a c pawn now, but rook and pawn end is very drawish. Bishop d4 was played first, which is not so great because it allows bishop e4, de4, and now this pawn is very weak, and white should have just put the bishop back on f4, forcing something like bishop e5 would play bishop e5, queen c6, which is obviously very good for white with two passed pawns. And if queen b7, we just take everything off and win this pawn for nothing. Oh, we got that, but then we got rook c4 at the end, and the bishop can't be protected, so black's dropping the pawn. And where else does the queen go, because it's skew otherwise? So bishop f4 is a surprising move missed by white. Instead he just took the pawn on e4. Bishop takes c5, still better for white. Queen c4, which gets the queen to a better square. Bishop d6, king g2, queen d7, rook d4 is a very good move actually, threatening sorts of nasties with pins. The queen goes back to c7, rook takes d6. Oh, that is a blunder. White's got a small, but in fact white's actually got a big advantage in this position with queen d3, because this threatens to attack the bishop and it has to move. And in fact wherever it goes allows the rook into d7. So it's bishop e5, rook d7. Let's say queen moves, queen c4. Oops, not that. Attacks that, bishop f8, bishop e7, 1-0. And where else does the queen go? he can't defend the c4 square. So queen b6, again queen c4, and if queen b3, then rook d8 check, and king g7 has to be played, and then queen c5, threatening queen f8. So if rook takes d8, then we take the bishop with check. So I actually have the queen d3. In this position, basically, white's missed a win and blown away his position in one move. Very strange for a 2100 plus to do that. It's not exactly the most complicated position ever. But have a test. What is wrong with rook takes d6? There's something very badly wrong with it. So pause the video if you want to have a go at it. The problem is, I can see white's theory behind this. White's point is to swap the pieces off, so white's left with the queen and pawn ending, where his king's reasonably safe, and he can try and win the c pawn. Well, he can try and tie black down to c pawn and then push his a pawn to victory. So I understand the strategy behind it, but the problem is strategy is useless if the tactics fail. And in this position the tactics do fail. So the queen takes d6, bishop f4, rook b4 is not played, and all of a sudden white's lost. It's after, because the problem is his queen's attacked as well. And again white messes up. White should at least try and keep the queens on for some counterplay. But even so, it's pretty bad just to exchange down. But it takes the queen. Takes c4, and now white's just completely lost. Down it exchange for nothing. Rook a4 and now bishop c7, attack the pawn. Now the king just comes in, and all. To be honest, this is designable. This, because all black has to do is bring a king over and sack back the rook for the bishop and the a pawn, and then the c pawn will deflect white's king from the action. And once white's king goes, then the black king can match in and take off white's kingside pawns. That's just a very simple and efficient way to win it if you're short of time. And that's pretty much what happens. Well, actually it's worse actually what happens. Mwahahahaha. See the kings come across. The black king gets there in time. King c3. And I'm pretty sure this wins. Or does it? It might not win. I might actually miscalculate this. How does this not win? Sure, this wins. What have I missed? What is going up now in the evaluation? I think it does win, yeah. But yeah, just this and this forced resignation, because the point is now is that the king can keep the a pawn just by standing on b5, and white is dropping another pawn at king's side by force. So it is time to throw in the towel. And that was a bit of a shock win, that, making up a rating difference of over 338 points. And I did a video on this because I like shocks, and I thought it was a very instructive game, and a lot can be learnt from it. But for now, please leave any comments and thoughts. Thanks very much.